Hello and welcome to a brand new season of AnewZ Talks. We're here in the auditorium of the Faculty of Arts here at Garabagh University, and we'll be sitting down with both the leaders and the next generation of this institution. We'll be going beyond titles and awards to understand their personal stories and the unique perspectives that they bring to the world around us. So let's get started. And we're starting with the future. Nargiz Gozalova is a student here at Garabagh University. You're originally from Baku and you're living in Khankendi, so welcome.
Thank you very much.
Now, tell me, to start off with, when you first arrived here, what was going through your mind? What was it that made you think, I'm here now?
Actually, I've never been to Garabagh before, and when the entrance exams results were announced and I was told that I will be studying in Khankendi in the university, I was really excited, and at the same time it's a new chapter in my life. I've never been to this city, I don't know many people, and I was really excited, and I thought that it's a new beginning, a new chapter in my life. And when I came here with my parents, at first I was really excited. My parents, my sister, they all supported me, and we were really mesmerized by the nature in here, the people's warm welcomings and how they treated us, greeted, and it was really awesome.
Now tell me more about that support from your parents and your family, because they've really influenced your decision to study medicine here, isn't
it? My parents are actually professors at universities in Baku. My father is a scientist, and since my childhood I've always looked up to my father, and I really wanted to be a scientist one day and pursue my studies and my education in the scientific way, and how can I pursue my education and benefit my community and globally, internationally to people. And since I grew up, I had all those toys about medicine, the bears, the stethoscope, the white coat that the doctors wear. And I was really influenced by this. I would watch many cartoons and television series about this. And my parents would always be supportive of me to become a doctor in future.
And you were also interested in mathematics as well, yes. Am I right in thinking that was from your grandmother?
Yes.
And what is it from that dream that you still maybe carry to medicine, even though you did choose that slightly different path?
My grandma is a math teacher, and my father is a scientist and also an engineer. He has a lot to do with mathematics. And I always looked up to my father, and I saw how he's handling math equations. And at first in my childhood, that was my first choice to be a mathematician. But I also had the idea of being a doctor, as I mentioned previously. And I thought that maybe I could use my analytical thinking into some way that I could be in a medical field.
And something you probably didn't imagine was that you'd be studying it here in Khankendi. What is it about studying here that you think will help you when it comes to being a doctor in the future, when it comes to serving people in the future?
I think that the lessons we get from our teachers, lessons about science, the research, I don't think other universities have the same. And I think if I want to be a doctor in the future, write some articles about my patients or something I found out, I think the education that I get from university will be much important for me. Also, our teachers come from different countries. They've been to many cities. They speak many languages. They've experienced many things from different cultures, and they've seen a lot of people. And I think that also will influence and help us to be a better doctor in future.
And being a good doctor is just as much about communicating as it is about, knowledge and science. So do you think being here and, as you say, being exposed to all of these different cultures, will that help you as a communicator?
I think yes, because in our university we are getting lessons called Arts and Humanity, and this lesson combines to itself the arts, humanity, values and traditions. In our lessons we talk about how can a good doctor become, as being a good doctor is not just about having good education, but it's also about having nice communication with people, that you're always interacting with them, and it's not just that you're diagnosing a patient with something, giving them medications. It's also that you're having conversations with them. You have to be warm with them, and they have to feel comfortable with themselves around you.
And what are some of the lessons that you've carried from your family as you go into those situations? You mentioned that they're really big inspirations for you.
The biggest lesson from my parents, I think I got, is that always prior your education. As I come from a very intellectual family, and my parents, as I mentioned, are professors at universities. And my father and my mother would always tell me to study hard and be really educated, as educated people are those who make great impact on our community in our country. And as I was a child, I always thought that I want to be a scientist, I want to be a doctor, I want to be someone who has a great impact and is doing some big things for our community, our country.
So it's not necessarily about having all the awards, having all the titles, it's about impact and the people whose lives you change.
Yes. I think that's important, as you may not have many titles, as you mentioned, or a huge status to be able to do something. Even a small person, a citizen, a student, a teacher can do a great impact. As I really look up to my parents, look up to my teachers, as they give us the education and the idea what to do in future to be able to do impact and many valuable things in future.
During your time studying here, what do you think you've learned about yourself, and what do you hope you're still learning, which is going to help you as you enter the world of work?
When I was in my hometown, I would study for exams. I would mostly do it alone, and I wouldn't really have many people around me to discuss lessons. But when I came here, I saw that there are lots of students like me who want to be in the same way like I do, pursue their careers and study. And we all come together to study and just share our thoughts and be like one.
And was that something that you expected when obviously you were at home in Baku deciding where to study? Was that something that was on your mind?
And my friends who are older than me, they would share their experiences about universities. And sometimes these experiences would be in a negative way, sometimes positive way. And I was really excited and nervous when I came here first, and how will the university be, how the students will be, how will the environment be that I'm in. And but I didn't expect it to be this warmly, this welcoming. And when I came here, I felt really like I'm in my hometown. I'm really with my friends. And I think we are, 90 people in our faculty, and it's a very nice thing that you can approach and come up to someone randomly and have a conversation with them, ask some questions about lessons or daily life maybe. You're really close to them. That's what I learned. And
it's not something that you necessarily get in a big city, in a capital city, is it?
Yes, because in great cities, sometimes there are some groups and people, and they may not be very talkative, they may be shy. But here, I think we're all students. It's a small city. We're gathered in universities, and that's what makes us come together. And I think, we come here and we all want to be together. We want to talk as we're far away from our parents, from our friends. And this city is a new family and new place for us.
Now, one final question, just to finish off. When you look back at your experience here as a student, what do you think is going to be the biggest takeaway?
The biggest takeaway, I think, will be the impacts that we get from our lessons. I mentioned it many times that I'm really excited about our lessons, is that we get education and knowledge that not many universities give to students, and they give us education how to write articles from our research lessons. We have many practical lessons from our first grade, and I think when I want to be a scientist or maybe a researcher in the future, I'll have a lot of information on knowledge that I got from my university, from my past life.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Nargiz, for sharing your story.
Thank you very much.
Our next guest today has studied and created in some of the most demanding musical environments, from Baku to New York, and now he's carrying that experience right here to Garabagh University. Türkar Gasimzade is a composer, educator and academic leader shaping the future of arts education. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And right at this stage where really the music happens, the magic happens.
Exactly, yeah. We've even got the props, which I won't ask you to play.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Now, if we think back to before you were an academic, when you were a young composer, what did music give you back then? And does it still give you the same thing today?
Well, the fact of composing and it gets realized, gets performed, still gives the same goosebumps, actually. I mean, something that you create out of nowhere comes out of nowhere. Because, I mean, the music itself, the real fact that you're dealing with sound and silences in between, And when it really gets performed by a performer and gets out of the score, because we usually I write scores, right? I mean I put down stuff on the paper and then performers get interpreted. That really is something magical, I think, and I'm still excited about it.
And tell me more about your style, your musical style, because you've studied all around the world, but then your local heritage and your Azerbaijani culture is a big part in what you do, isn't it?
I grew up in the neighborhood where you would hear azan from the mosque, and then there was also a Jewish synagogue right like 10 meters away, and also church bells. So all this multicultural experience really shaped my childhood, and I thought, am I going to do specifically the nationalist kind of music, or is it going to be the aesthetic mixed up with the different kind of cultures, and especially the Western? I mean, we also had, in terms of our music heritage, we really had composers who were trying to meld these two different worlds, like make a bridge with, let's say, Western Hemisphere and then, Eastern, if we can say so, like makam music. So Ezer Hacıbeyli, a founder of our composition school, has written operas on that very premise, right? So he would write a makam opera, the very first one, where we would hear very specific kind of singing and special style that really belonged to this makam culture. But at the same time, you would hear music coming out of the Western instruments like violins and cellos. So this kind of set of values has been there already for a long time, and I believe what I'm doing is just connecting myself to that tradition, but also trying to add up the things that probably the 20th and 21st centuries have brought in terms of techniques and the other stuff.
So that's interesting as well, as we think of composing as quite a solitary thing, but it doesn't sound like that's the experience for you. You feel part of a tradition and part of a community. Not
all the countries have composition schools. The school meaning you really have something that's established, has been there, and you write and you feel the belonging to certain kind of traditions that are out there. So you're sitting in this one place, and then you write, and it takes quite a lot of hours and dedication. That is solitude. Of course, that's where that's where you have to really be engaged with your inner voice, within your inner impulses. But then afterwards, of course, it gets out. And it needs to be heard, it needs to be listened to.
And tell me more about what that is like to have a composition and then have it be performed or have it be judged or critiqued. What's that like?
If you would ask me the same question when I was probably, 25 or something, it would be really a huge thing. I mean, because you write the thing quite a long time, and then you bring it to some performer. That's a different person. They don't know what you thought when you were writing this, because music is really such an abstract art of form, right? It's also a time art, and the idea of freezing time, that we sort of create another time where things are better, happier, right? It's also very, let's say, idealistic in a way that we're gonna create something and take you out of the reality, right? So trying to sort of a little bit compete with the current realities and so on. So basically, yes, you would bring it to another performer, and they would try to interpret it. And then if that gets criticized, then you can be a little bit off the track, and because musicians are quite sensitive to such things. And back then it would be something, but then you get a lot of performances around, and then you get used to things that sometimes people will not like your music, right? But that's life, and that's normal. That's not everybody likes Jackson Pollock, for example, right? But that's painting. With same stuff goes with music of Stravinsky and the others. So yeah, if it happens to this big old guys, why not us, of course?
And a second question for that: do you feel like, as an industry, the music industry is doing enough to support young people, young composers? Because as you mentioned, they are subject to critique, and that can be difficult.
Yeah, it's never enough, of course. There are groups of composers who basically get a lot of, let's say, revenue, and that's because of the style. Sometimes really, you've asked about the advice. I'm going to get back to that. But sometimes you really write easy music because people really, hear it and they feel it's catchy and so on. This is very, very important track. If you're choosing that track, then you have to be really believing in your values, believing in what you're doing. And also, of course, you have to really sharpen always the techniques. Composing is about sitting there and just writing a lot of music and then deleting a lot of stuff. So it's an art of erasing, actually, rather than just writing notes. Just practicing.
Mm-hmm. And what about that advice that you mentioned?
Read a lot of stuff. Go to theaters. Go write a lot of music. Don't give up, right? Don't give up on the track that you have chosen on the path that you have chosen for yourself. And of course, you have to believe in what you're doing, but also you have to look around, right? You have to see how you're being shaped. Your language is being shaped by the realities of today, right? Today's politics, today's socioeconomic things that are going on. Everything.
It's a really important lesson, isn't it? That balance between being able to self-criticize, but also to be resilient and to not give up. Now, my final question to you: you mentioned belonging.
Final? Okay.
I know, time flies.
All right.
You mentioned belonging, and tell me, where in your life have you felt belonging, and what about coming back here? Is this a place where you feel you belong?
Great question. One of the composers who I've looked after quite a long time, Igor Stravinsky, used to say, and he was not a good public speaker, by the way. He used to say that I'm a maker, and I make stuff. So I just juxtapose things, and I write. I take one, let's say, element, and I juxtapose that and see how it works. And that's how he revolutionized, really, like late 20th century composer music. I drew a lot of influence from him. So and I'm thinking of myself the same way. Let's put it, frankly, this way. I like to write stuff that I really like to write, and here I started doing that in this university. It's probably the first time I've gotten the biggest commission of my life to write a ballet, and that's the so far the biggest project that I've gotten myself into, and so that's here. That started also here. We have started an orchestra that really plays a lot of contemporary but also classical music. Now is based here in Khankendi in Garabagh University. And we have also, of course, started this, faculty, the music education, with, let's say, with six majors, and with 243 students at this moment. So I'm really proud of this, and that really feels like belonging to somewhere.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure to chat with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, our next guest has worked at one of the most prestigious medical institutions in the world, shaping the future of reproductive medicine. But now he's made a different choice, and he's helping rebuild education and healthcare and opportunity in a post-conflict region. Now, Dr. Samir Babayev is a physician, scientist, educator, and now a leader shaping the next generation of medicine here in Azerbaijan. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity as well.
Now, as I mentioned, you've worked in some of the most elite institutions around the world, and now you're building something almost from the ground up here in Karabakh. Tell me about that transition and why you made the choice, and how it's changed you.
Well, I think about Mayo Clinic as not leaving success necessarily, but and coming here as I think about it as redefining success itself. I do believe that people of my generation, no matter where they are, they have been touched by the history of our country. And that history was not always glorious, since there are some tragic pages, and specifically the late 80s, early 90s. I do believe that there is no family, no neighborhood that hasn't been touched by First Karabakh War, by atrocities that happened at the time, by people being forced to leave their homes, and in many hundreds of thousands, by young kids losing their life fighting for their home country. Honestly, in my case, it was on one side an emotional decision, of course. So any emotional decision, it's not always necessarily logical. To be successful, you have to be an optimist. And I am an optimist. In fact, I am sometimes a delusional optimist. and not being a little bit delusional, you wouldn't be able to succeed. You kind of have to be thinking outside of the box. You have to also be willing to leave your comfort zone to be able to make an impact. And I think the main reason I'm here is emotional, but also pragmatic in a way that I am trying to make impact. And if I believe that I wouldn't be able to make that impact, I wouldn't have been here.
Now, you talk about being emotional and being pragmatic. How does that shape your work in medicine? I read a quote once that the best doctors are the ones that cry in the locker room. Do you think there's truth to that?
I do believe that the best doctors are objective doctors that are trying to keep their own feelings away from what they're doing, because if we become emotional treating our patients, I don't think we can maintain the objectivity. That is the reason why we're told and taught not ever to treat our friends and relatives, and because when you do that, when you become emotional, you do lose objectivity. I do also think that what is important in being a good physician is being competent, but also compassion. In a way, medicine is, if it's 50% science, it is at least 50% art. And as Nargiz mentioned before, the reason why we teach our medical students arts and humanities or other subjects, other pillars that we teach at our school is because we do believe firmly that medicine is not only all about hard skill, but also about soft skills. I do remember words of my mentor. His name is Türkar, and he would tell me that there are three important in physician that patients are valuing, 3 A's. And the first one being availability. If we're not available to our patients, then patients do not care about us as physicians and nurses. The second A is affability. That is basically bedside manner, ability to connect with people, to be compassionate, to be empathic. That is very valued by our patients. And third A is ability. Ability as a physician, as a surgeon. Ability is also important, but on the list of the things that our patients are valuing about us as physicians and nurses, it is sort of least important of most important things.
In working in reproductive medicines, of being at the intersection of new developments, but also ethics, does that change how you see medicine? And tell me more about that journey into that specialism.
Yeah, fertility medicine definitely shaped my career, me as a person, because I've seen a lot of great, fantastic stories and shared those stories with my patients, and being part of those family stories, but also a lot of tragic stories as well. In my field, although it has a reputation of always being a happy field of helping to build families, bringing new children, and that's what I've done for over a decade, bringing new Americans to this world. If you look at actual hard statistics of it, about 1/3 of the patients are successful very first time they do treatment, fertility treatment. Overall, cumulative success rates are much better, but only 1/3 are being successful very first time they do treatment. That would mean that the lion's share of patients are actually not successful, and they do need that support, that guidance from a physician, and frankly speaking, from a team, because it's teamwork. Nurses are as important in this as physicians are. So I learned a lot. I learned compassion. I learned emotional strength. I learned responsibility, because there are many decisions we make as healthcare providers and help our patients to make those decisions that are important to their life, that would affect their life forever, and also would affect our society as well.
And now I want to go back to something you said earlier about success. You said that the prestige doesn't necessarily mean success. Tell me more about how you define success in your career.
I think the two most important professions in the world are physicians and teachers. Why? Because I do think that these are the specific groups that are touching many, many lives throughout their careers. But being a physician that is also a teacher, I think that amplifies and multiplies, all that ability to touch more lives. And now being able to be to teach medical students and nurses who in their turn will be touching many thousands more lives. I am indirectly through their hands touching more lives of people. That's what I define as a success. That's, I think, how success should be measured. Not by the role you have, not by the salary you have, but by the numbers of lives that you touch throughout your career.
Is that a big responsibility?
It's a huge responsibility, and we feel it. We have 90 students right now, all first-year students, but many of them chose Garabagh University School of Medicine and Health Sciences without seeing the building, without meeting the entire team, just by talking to us and our inspirational speeches. And a lot of them could have chosen any other school they want, but they chose Garabagh University, and we feel the responsibility of that. So it's now our time to deliver, and when I say we, I know we talk about me today mostly, but there are 80 people in our team who sacrificed not less than what I have done and I'm doing, and basically left their comfort zone to be here, to build something new, to be part of something very exciting, and they feel the same level of responsibility that I feel.
And does it feel different? You mentioned, shaping lives as a physician and shaping lives as a teacher. Do they feel like, do you need different skills to be able to do that?
Certainly. That I realized fairly quickly. I'm also, being in a new role, I get an opportunity to teach, but I also learn a lot. And I learn on quite, it's a pretty steep learning curve, but what I realized, I have been a physician scientist, and I've been a teacher as well. I've had an opportunity to be a clerkship director at Mayo Clinic. But what I realized is building new institution, writing a curriculum is not the same as teaching. And so it's like, the analogy will be, it's like driving a car versus fixing a car. You could be a very good driver, but doesn't mean that you can fix a car. And so what you really need, and I've gained a lot of respect to that, is you need to surround yourself with people that are that have the skill, and specifically in this case, a skill of basically professors of medical and nursing education. We are lucky that we've been able to assemble a team here that is a professional team, part of which are people that are their entire career they've been building and improving curriculums, and that is very, very important, because if we want to deliver a world-class care and also world-class education here in Garabagh, we really need world-class people. We're lucky, blessed that we have good leaders in this country that are supporting our mission. This is a huge risk if you think about it. Building a brand new institution in the sort of saying figurative language, middle of nowhere. It's a huge risk for any leader. You really truly need inspirational, what we call in literature, institutional entrepreneurs. Institutional entrepreneurs are people who have the power and prestige of institution behind them, but also willing to risk and get out of their own comfort zone to be able to build something new. That is very, very hard to do for any bureaucrat. And we are blessed to have such leaders in both in Minister of Science and Education and the leadership of the country that is supporting us in that mission.
And obviously, as you're teaching the next generation, medicine is something that could fundamentally change with AI, new technology. How do you feel about that, and what are you worried that we might end up losing if we start relying too much on things like AI?
I think AI is a fantastic tool, and I think those who are not using the tool will quickly fall behind. And that is equally the same true, I think, for physicians and nurses as well. That said, I think that the medicine and healthcare should be left to humans. Why? Because AI can make you more competent as a physician or a nurse, but it won't hold the patient's hand, figurative hand. So you really need human touch in healthcare, and I think that's not going to be substituted by AI anytime soon. I do believe it's much better to have AI plus human than a human by itself. by her or himself. But AI by itself cannot replace human in healthcare. That is, I'm pretty sure about.
My final question, you talked about shaping lives as both a teacher and a physician. And when you retire, when you look back on your career, what do you hope those people remember about you?
I respect all kind of beliefs, religious beliefs and others, but I do not myself personally believe in life after death. And as a person that is not believing in the life after death, I think what I'm going to do, I have to do in this life. And in my deathbed, I want to look back and say, hey, Samir, you have been able to improve life. You've made life better, but not only for your own self, not only for your own family, not only for your own people, but also for your own country and for the entire planet. I think that will be the most important thing for me, to be able to say that, breathing my very last breath.
Very important message there. Thank you very much for sharing with me. Thank you. Well, that brings to a close this episode of AnewZ Talks. We've heard different perspectives from both leaders and the future of this institution and this region. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. And until the next episode of AnewZ Talks.